So it is now day one for my 7 days of Halloween challenge. To follow along with the prompts that we'll be using, you will need, along with a surface to work on of some kind, you can use wood circle like I'm doing. You can use an art journal or canvas will probably work. A sheet of paper you could use if you want, but for today it might tear, it might warp. So if you're okay with that, go ahead. I always think it adds character, but yeah. But you might want like watercolor paper or mixed media journal or wood or canvas. I'm repeating myself. But so for today's prompts, you will want gesso of any color. You can use white if you want. There's black. There's gold. I'll probably, I'm thinking I might end up using black or white. Dip pen, you probably do not want to use an expensive fancy dip pen for this. Maybe like a cheap one you found at Walmart or something like that. Because with the prompt that's coming up, it might get ruined. I've never done what's coming up before, so we'll find out. But yeah, you'll want some tissue paper. This you will end up cutting up into hearts. So if you want to do that before we get to that, you can. But I'm gonna be using some Tim Holtz tissue paper. I don't remember what it's called. I lost the packaging years ago, but it was one of those that came on a roll. Has butterflies and text and stuff on it. You will want to use some paint. I recommend acrylic or watercolor paint because we will be writing on top of it. Acrylic with a matte finish is probably going to be the best for this. Maybe some chalk paints will be good, but those can be a bit powdery. Watercolors can be a bit powdery and can clog up some pens if you're not careful. So yeah, just whatever. Or you can also just use gesso if you want, or you can, when we get to that step, you can even like write into the paint using the end of a paintbrush or something along those lines. You'll want some burlap. You could also use like scraps of fabric if you have them lying around, or maybe you have some texture paste and you can add texture that way. Yeah. You'll want a pen, just because we'll be doing some drawing and writing type stuff, so that might be something that you'll want to use. You could use a pencil instead. And if you have them, bring feathers. If not, you can draw them, you can print out a picture of them, whatever you want to do. Yeah. So the first prompt is to make scribbly marks, and I'm using a purple Arteza fine liner pen. And then it was free choice, so I just made a vignette, and then it is use a new supply. I'm using pearl tints from scrapbook.com. They were on clearance and I never used them before. Now I'm just rubbing it with my finger because I didn't like how those dots looked. And it ends up looking kind of like smoky and cloudy. In real life, it's got like a metallic shimmer to it. Next prompt is to add burlap. I'm just taking some burlap ribbon and making it look slightly frayed. And then I'll be gluing it down with some tacky glue once I figure out the position for it. Now the next prompt is to make a pattern with arrows. I'm using black gesso and a small paintbrush. Now the next prompt is to add hearts cut out of tissue paper. I am using the Tim Holtz tissue paper that I mentioned earlier, and I'm gluing them down with matte medium. Now, the next prompt is to sketch weather. I'm just using a pen that I found, and the prompt after that is fill in spaces with paint. I'm using the So Flat paint by Golden. It is in the color Fluorescent Violet. And then once that big area is filled, I smooth out the sides to make it blend in a little bit more. The next prompt is to add some hidden journaling. I write fear on top of the burlap, and then I'll cover it with white gesso. I used a Posca pen for the writing, and of course I waited till the tacky glue dried. And now the next prompt is to write on top of a layer of paint. So I'm using the black 3.0 paint, and then I used a white gel pen to write on top of it. The prompt after that is to use a calligraphy pen to add gesso. I'm just going over the gel pen letters that I had written. It says Haunted Hearts because I didn't like how you could barely see them. So I used the prompt as an opportunity to make it stand out a bit more. The next prompt is to add feathers. I went ahead and used some feathers that I got from a craft store. I don't remember what craft store I got them from because it was years ago. You can draw feathers or add a picture of a feather or paint a feather, whatever you want to do. And that was the last prompt, but I will be adding some finishing touches after I finish adding the feathers. So after this, it's pretty much all just optional stuff. Because I'll be using supplies that I didn't mention. So here I'm coloring the hearts with an orange highlighter. It's actually a zebra midliner, but they're pretty much the same as highlighters. Then I'm going over it with a micron pen. It's in the size 10. Now I'm using some high flow paint. It's by Golden, and it's in the color red. After that, the micron pen ink was still wet, so I decided to smudge it with my fingers.